We all struggle with feeling like there's not enough time in the day to be productive personally or professionally. We all struggle to make our time matter. It's time to take control. It's time to start investing in the corporation of you. At Athena, they've helped over 700 ambitious professionals achieve more by connecting them with best-in-class, globally remote executive assistants. Athena executive assistants go beyond basic administration tasks. They help you make time matter through the art of delegation. They believe delegation is the superpower of all highly successful people, and your personal EA will help you get there. Your EA is a one-on-one long-term partner to help you achieve your personal and professional goals. Take back your time. Join the waitlist at athenago.com. That's athenago.com.
Hi, I'm Brianna Seeley, producer for OffScrip Health. Welcome to Vax On. Before we get started today, I'd like to tell our listeners about another show in the OffScrip Health podcast network, DabbleCo. DabbleCo's mission is to empower women with accurate information provided by actual experts. In each episode, host Claire O'Brien, nurse practitioner and co-founder of The Skin Click, breaks down trending topics in health, wellness, and beauty to challenge what's trending versus what's true. Check out the 3-part Roe v. Wade series featuring an OBGYN, pastor, and mother's thoughts on the highly debated topic. For more information, visit offscrip.com/shows. The link will be in our show notes. Enjoy the show.
Hey, Matt, it's Tuesday, so that means we're taping Vax On.
It is Vax On time, Elura. Hello, how are you?
I'm so well. How are you?
It's been a minute, right?
It's been a minute, yeah.
About a week. That's the cadence of the show. About a minute.
Yeah, about a minute, and it's soup outside today is the forecast.
Well, I know all about soup because I just took a trip to South Carolina to visit my parents with my wife and kids, and
it's
that
soup
was
every
soup.
day there.
That
Yeah,
was
it's soup every day there in South Carolina. It was so oppressively hot when we went to South Carolina last summer that I felt like we walked out of the hotel and were like immediately struck down by the sun.
Well, it was like moistly, humidly.
Yeah.
You know, what's the word from sultry? It was sultry.
It was that's like a nice way to
That
put
was
it.
the throw mama from the train, Danny DeVito moment. It was sultry. Yes.
It feels like in South Carolina, it feels like you walk outside and immediately you're uncomfortable and you hear saxophones playing. Right? Like it feels like a saxophone is playing at all times there.
So the welcome sign into my parents' community was warning alligators.
Just general alligators.
Or crocodiles, whichever one they were.
Nobody got eaten though, right?
No one got eaten.
Ever since that time with that horrible tragedy of the little boy being eaten in Orlando, I am like terrified of either alligators or crocodiles. But of course, since I'm a city girl, I don't know which one is which.
Well, it's funny. Every now and then my dad will send me a picture of a golf course with an alligator. Again, pick your reptile of choice. I don't know which one is which. Walking across the course. Like, oh yeah, this is my dad golfing with an alligator.
It's scary.
Yeah.
That shit's scary. Like they're not kidding, those fucking animals.
No, they're not. It was nice, but I mean, the food was good. The weather was good. It was near the beach. It was fine. Golf course, mini golf courses was good.
Do you golf?
I mini golf.
Oh, you mini golf. Okay.
I beat my dad in mini golf.
I played golf one time. I played 18 holes and wanted to die. It was like being like criminal level frustrated for like hours and hours. I was like, why would anyone do this?
I have a Gen X intervention moment. We're not supposed to say I want to die anymore.
Oh, true. No. You know what? True.
Redacted?
Yeah, redacted. Right. We shouldn't hype. But really what the rules are is like never hyperbolize, which is so hard for me.
Yeah, then you can't never say anything.
Right. I mean,
which
but
is my best double negative ever.
Yes, I know. I love double negatives. I love hyperboles. It's so difficult to exist, but I'm trying to be precise with my language.
Can we still say like gag me with a spoon?
I don't want to say that. That was stupid the first time around. I'd like to be done with that.
What about grody to the max?
No, I never participated in Valley Girl speak.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't do that. And as a result of rebelling against Valley Girl speak, I can't stand it when people uptalk. It drives me crazy. So,
but I don't know what you mean.
Tell
me more.
It makes me literally crazy.
Wait, can you say crazy? We're gonna stay crazy.
No, you can't say crazy.
What the hell can we say anymore?
Fuck. Okay. You know what we can say?
Let's channel our rage towards the first segment.
I'm channeling my rage, but I have to tell you, I don't know if I'm enraged or not. I'm reporting in about this legal healthcare story solely as a sort of alert, like fuckery may be afoot, but I don't know enough about the specifics to know if it actually is afoot or not. Like it may be. So everybody, listen up with me. And if you know more about this topic, please tweet us and call us and write us and all that kind of shit.
So pre-fuckery.
Pre-fuckery, right? And in this world where there are these like huge Supreme Court decisions about big things, like abortion and gun control that everyone's following, these other cases are still being decided and they're like not as sexy. So they don't get a lot of media coverage. And as a result, it's easy to just completely miss them. So last week, this other case was decided 5-4. Now, 5-4 decisions means like there was major disagreement among the justices. And I'll tell you, this was not even one that fell along the typical ideological lines. The makeup of the 5-4 decision was like all over the place. And here's what it was about. So I don't know if you know this, but there are these hospitals in the US and they are referred to as DSH hospitals. And that stands for disproportionate share hospitals. It means hospitals that serve a lot of low income patients. And to combat the fact that, low income patients are coming in and they're receiving healthcare services and the hospital doesn't get paid for those services, the federal government just gives those hospitals extra money to deal with that problem.
Okay,
Now,
that sounds okay.
It's totally good. That is totally good. That's not a problem at all. Everyone agrees we should continue having this system. But anyway, so the federal government gives extra money to these DSH hospitals. Now, how much extra money the government gives them, and it's part of Medicare, so that's why it's like super confusing, right? What is in question is, well, how much money do the hospitals get? Because there's a formula applied to the hospitals that takes into account like how many Medicare patients did they serve. And it's like this whole big confusing calculation, right? I won't go into that because that's like super confusing. And
I'm already confused for the record. So
right.
Go on.
So there's disagreement between the federal government and the hospitals about the hospitals think that they're entitled to more money and to offset these costs. And the federal government is like, we're already giving you money. So some of the hospitals sued and they were like, hey, Biden administration, you owe us $600 million because you undercalculated this extra money we're supposed to get. And that was the dispute, whether or not the federal government was giving these special hospitals enough extra payment, like were they complying with the formula? That was like what was at issue.
Right.
And now if you think about it, right, and this is why I bring it up, this is potential for major fuckery because one of two things is true. Either the federal government is like seriously underpaying hospitals that most need the money to serve people who most need the medical services, and to the tune of $600 million, which seems fucked up if that's what's happening.
I mean, just that doesn't seem like a lot of money if you're looking at like, I don't know what our GDP is. We spend more money than God on healthcare.
But this is only one hospital system that sued though.
Oh.
So this is like one hospital system sued and said like, hey, you owe us $600 million. And if the answer is yes, they do owe it to you, then probably the government owes that money to like every hospital system.
Right. Floodgates begin.
Exactly. So it's either that situation that like the government is seriously underpaying the hospitals, or the federal government is already paying a pretty hefty bill and the hospitals are engaging in some fuckery trying to get more.
So what's the court case?
Right. So the court case was called Becerra versus Empire Health Foundation. Becerra is the Secretary of Health and Human Services versus Empire Health Foundation, which is one of these hospital systems. And so, I mean, the thing is, I don't know enough about what goes into reimbursing hospitals to really know if I think the hospitals were due this extra money. What I do know is that this hospital system said it was due this money. And the Supreme Court ruled 5-4 that the federal government is already paying them enough money and the hospitals are not entitled to any additional funding.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Again, I told you, it's a complicated formula. I don't really understand exactly how to apply it. Most of the Supreme Court decision tried to outline how this formula gets applied, but it's like a total fucking mess. But the thing is, something like this, which is it's a totally nonpartisan issue, right? This is not really a political issue. Really, you're talking about things that are just missed in the media because they're not like exciting, but we should want to know, like, is our federal government underpaying hospitals money that is due to them, or are hospitals taking advantage of the government And I think it's important to keep those things on our radar.
I mean, my inclination is that if a hospital is a private company, I'm just going to say it. If a hospital is a hospital, they're going to overbill because that's what they do to make money. They overbill.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a law firm, like in the firm, right? He got them on overbilling.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Tom Cruise to the win. Go see Top Gun Maverick if you haven't, folks.
Yes. And back to Mitch McDear.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what they do. I mean, this is all Medicare stuff. So, and it's all set out by the Medicare statute. So regardless of what the hospitals are doing in their other billing, it is important to know that the hospitals are like following the Medicare rules when they make their claims. So like, it would be good if everybody agreed. But let me just say this on a broader scale. It's kind of fucked up to me that, or the amount of reimbursement due to hospitals who serve low-income patients is so complicated that even the Supreme Court couldn't fucking figure out what it means. Like, that's not a good system. If it's so complicated that no one can figure out what the rules are, how is anyone supposed to follow those rules?
Just throw an embryo in there.
What could go wrong? So it's kind of like none of us are, this is, we all sort of figure like, I don't know, someone else will figure this out. I mean, that was even my reaction as I was reading the Supreme Court case. Like, I have no idea if I think this is correct, because it's so much work for me to figure out the underlying facts that I don't even fucking know what's going on. But I mean, that in and of itself is a major problem, because if I can't figure it out and I'm trying to, and the Supreme Court justices also can't figure it out and they're in charge of deciding, who is it that's in a position to figure it out?
Right. So when we say healthcare is fucked, it's just scraping the surface there.
Right. And it's not like little things. It's like, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars at stake. So like, perhaps we should create rules that are easy to follow and easy to get correct.
Perhaps we should. And I laugh and giggle hysterically.
Perhaps. I mean, just a thought.
It's just kind of nice to know the Supreme Court does other things besides destroy the country.
Yes, they do. They do. It's matter, look, they gave half of Oklahoma back to the Native Americans recently. I mean, that's something.
Gorsuch, even I knew that because you told me, but still.
I always say he's like angling for a recurring role on Yellowstone.
Right.
But anyway, so that's my story. That's just a little, it's kind of like reporting in from other potential healthcare fuckery out there.
So I want to divert this to our second segment, which I'm conflating with I keep mentioning like the Scrooge McDuck bank vault where he swims in the money, which is these households like mine with 40,000 home tests in them that we never use unless we're symptomatic, which we never are, but yet COVID's all over the place and no one's dying. And where are we? Blurring the lines on what is going on?
Yeah, so now it sounds like it's really a problem because people aren't testing as much. So we have like no idea what the COVID statistics are.
Right.
It's sort of a good problem to have, right? Because we were much more strict with the testing when having COVID was so much more frightening. And the fact that people are generally a lot more lax about it is like a side effect of the fact that it's not, it's not fatal for most people. And it's for many of us, it's just not that big of a deal. So people aren't compelled to get tested every time they have sniffles.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a good sign, but it's not ideal when we're trying to manage a pandemic, when there's like regulations and stuff out there, if we don't have accurate numbers.
Well, the trucks here in New York are still out every day, but I never see anyone in line for them anymore. And I went to City MD today, and there's usually like a normal line of people just wanted to get regular tested, and they're not. I mean, are their kitchen drawers filled with home tests that they're not using?
I wonder, yeah, that's funny you say that, because on the way to the studio, when I drive in and I tape from the OffScrip studio, there's like a tent right outside the studio, and there's never anybody there online to get COVID tested.
Unreal. Well, maybe not unreal. I mean, is this the world we want it to be living in, where we're just living with it, and that's what it is?
I don't know. And I think that the idea that our statistics are really not reliable bothers me, because I know how much there is at stake, especially when we still have, maybe not government regulations as much, but there are certainly private companies that have their own restrictions in place. Like, for example, my son is taking part in a 1-week internship in Washington, D.C. later this summer. And the COVID restrictions are seriously fierce. He has to COVID test every single day during this 1-week thing.
What?
I know. And the thing is, it's based on trying to be as careful as possible, which is great. But to me, it seems like it would be relevant to know what the numbers are at the time.
No, we have to, as a society, I guess, to the extent that we can agree, that it's just now at a point where we're not dying from it as much at all. I'm not going to quote stats here. I'm not trying to anger people who've lost people to this disease, but are we at a point where we're just living with it now and that's it? There's nothing we can do. And I know we're going to talk about like other subvariants at some point because there's like the zombie one is just waiting to happen. But until it does, are we just living with it?
I mean, I think that those things are not mutually exclusive. I feel like we can absolutely be living with it and accepting what's going on and not freaking out about it, but also be keeping track of what the numbers are. It's kind of like, like the wildfires, like we deal with them. And even when we have them under control, we still pay attention to what the air pollution levels are. I don't ever think it's useless to have good data about what's going on for a public health emergency across the spectrum of the population. Like it's always going to be good to have that information. So I don't think just saying like, well, it's not fatal anymore, so it doesn't matter that we don't have the right data. Like that just bugs me.
Yeah, we should want to have the right data at any point for anything if it matters, period.
I feel like it matters only because like it would change how I behave if I knew all of a sudden the numbers were really up.
To an extent, I agree with you, but
I think it would. I don't know.
Right. So if like workforce thinning because of this is just what it is, it's going to affect airlines, hospitality, restaurants, I suppose.
It would be nice if every time you got on an airplane, you had more than like a 50-50 chance of getting back, given the freaking labor shortage. Like that's a serious problem.
Yeah, we can get into the whole pilot strike and the Delta strike, but at the same time, it's time for a commercial break. We'll be right back from not airlines, or maybe airlines. Enjoy the break.
Has your chronic illness made it difficult to continue working in the traditional way? Want to learn how to find and create flexible remote work that both accommodates your chronic illness and generates an income? Join the Patients Getting Paid membership, a community of chronicpreneurs where people just like you find workshops and trainings, weekly updated condition-specific gigs, twice monthly coaching calls, co-workings, accountability, and the kindest community to support you on your path to make money while working from anywhere and taking good care of yourself. Learn more or join us at patientsgettingpaid.com.
So, Matt, we're back. Are you feeling foggy?
Residually, eternally, yes.
Eternally foggy. Why are you eternally foggy?
Well, I have something called chemo brain, which is finally, after many, many years, a clinically proven evidence-based late effect of cancer treatment that affects your cognition, your executive function, your abilities to process information, and it's kind of inversely proportional to aging, so it gets worse, but you can't use it as an excuse anymore once you get really old like me. But it does harken a time where people didn't take you seriously. Oh, get over it. There's no such thing. Chemo brain is made up. Get over it.
Kind of like the way people used to say about ADD.
Right.
People often used to say that ADD was made up.
Yeah, get over it. Therapy.
And I think people have, society as a whole has become a lot more sensitive to neurodiversity as a topic generally, and to specific inabilities to focus, things like that. So chemo brain is something that if a person experiences it, does it last like forever?
It can last forever. Again, every single person that goes through like terrible radiation or chemotherapy that affects the brain is going to have some kind of late effect manifested depending on who they are. But
is it only people who had brain cancer or people who had any kind of cancer?
Chemotherapy writ large. Again, everything is so genetically individualized at this point today than it used to be easy bake oven for everyone in the 1980s and 90s. But yes, cognitive deficits and executive function damage are real. And you may have to live with the consequences of them, which is an over-under because you'd rather be alive with them than dead without them.
Sure.
But yeah, it's real. And the brain fog of COVID is also now real. We can't just say, oh, you haven't had COVID in 2 years. Get over it.
Yeah, this is something that we've heard kind of since the beginning of COVID, that COVID can cause some kind of neuro effects, whether it's confusion or, they said fogginess or COVID brain or, whatever we've heard it called. And it sounds like they're really doing some good research into that specific symptom. I read about this study in mice, and it said, which I'm always like confused about the use of mice and this kind of stuff. Like, so the study with the mice said that the virus disrupted the normal activity of several brain cell populations and left behind signs of inflammation. And somehow this is going to help us understand the cognitive disruption caused by COVID-19.
Well, would you rather than do research on puppies or mice?
No, definitely not. But this is my question. So when they test the mice, how do they know if their brains are foggy? Like, are they like, you used to use the Oxford comma, but you don't use it anymore. Like, are they like I don't understand. Like, are they like, it seems like kind of a nuanced thing to begin with. Is it all like mice in the maze? Like, I need to know this about the mice.
I trust the people after all these years of studying science stuff on mice that they know what they're doing.
They can tell if the mice are stupid.
They can tell if the mice are stupid. Yeah.
Like, were the mice smart to begin with? I just need to know more about this all. So they're testing the mice. Like, and also, I also need to know, relevant to COVID-19, like, are they sure that they were working with people who had a full deck before COVID?
Right. Yeah. We don't have a baseline for this
Like,
at all.
I need to know, because if you think about it, right? Like, are we only talking about the people who refused to get vaccinated because they thought they were going to become magnetic? Because I have questions about those people and their cognitive abilities anyway.
Right. But again, I have the Bill Gates chip, so I'm fine.
Right. Me too. I mean, I don't need my cell phone. I could just put my finger right up to
Right.
my
It's like the Maxwell smartphone. It's his, like
Exactly.
his shoe and his thumb. Yeah.
So I'm like fascinated by all this, because it said the mouse model was engineered as a close stand-in for humans. And I know that that's been done in lots of medical contexts. And they meant, they basically tried to mimic the experience of someone with a mild COVID-19 infection. And it was a whole thing. They put the cells into the mice, the mices,
Meese,
yeah.
the meese.
The meese. The meese
Get it right.
respiratory tract. And the infection cleared up, but then they ended up staying with the brain fog. So, this is good medical news, right? Because it means that there's like a scientific basis for them to keep on studying this as a real symptom. Am I getting that right?
I think the part we're missing out on is that a virus can cause brain fog, and that, it's just the flu has just gone completely out the door, even though it was already out the door years ago. This is not the flu. This is something brand new, concocted in some lab somehow, that can completely destroy your cognition besides making you sick.
That's true. And that's a really good point, because I know that from my own experience with COVID, I absolutely felt like, well, I guess it's sort of like a flu, because the flu makes you feel really shitty and COVID made me feel really shitty. But it seemed sort of like flu plus, like flu
plus.
but like kind of worse.
Like Paramount Plus, but different.
Exactly. Generally speaking, other viruses, I've never heard anyone talk about brain fog. The only time I've ever heard talk of brain fog, other than in the cancer context, has been in the pregnancy context. That pregnancy like makes you all kinds of wacky.
Right.
And it's like a very real thing. And I know women talk about it all the time. So, I mean, it's new though, that it's the direct result of a virus. So, to me, again, like, it kind of underscores how important it is to try your best to avoid getting this virus, by getting vaccinated or, taking other precautions, because the last thing you want is to have a virus cause your brain to not function the right way. To me, that's much scarier than any of the other stuff.
Well, it goes back to our other shows on long COVID, which is we have no idea as a species the late effects of this mutant thing that this is, because there's never been anything quite like it before.
Am I going to all of a sudden get foggy in like a couple of years? Do you think?
That's just aging.
Okay, because I don't know that I can handle it. I already can't remember anything.
Yeah, I mentioned this at the top of my little rant, but there is an X and Y axis crossing at some point where aging meets chemo brain, where you just have no excuses anymore, and you're just going to be fucked.
You're just like, I'm over it. How about, like, right now I'm using like, I'm too stressed, and that's why I can't remember anything. So maybe I should just try out COVID as an excuse and see if
God.
that helps. Like, I had COVID. Leave me alone. My brain doesn't work anymore. I don't know.
You got to get a hall pass for that one.
But I feel like, I have a friend who swears that she has major cognitive deficits from it. And I mean, that has to be a terrifying thing. And given so many people who have had COVID, I wonder if that just kind of the sheer numbers, might mean that there's more funding for research and hopefully treatment for this. And I hope, right?
Well, again, there's so much unknown here because we never could have predicted that there would be a thing after the thing.
Right.
No one foresaw, it's just we knew it wasn't the flu on day one. But what we didn't know is that the human body would react so egregiously disparately from a traditional virus like this.
Right. And that like some people would get like a sniffle and some people would like just have every kind of symptom, and some people had stomach symptoms, some people had respiratory symptoms. It was like all over the friggin' place.
And just when we first learned, even in early 2020, when we first learned that one of the symptoms was you lose your sense of smell.
Yeah. And that was like a really weird one.
That doesn't happen with normal viruses.
Right. Did it happen to you when you had COVID?
I did. It did happen. Yes.
I was waiting for that. And it did not happen to me. And I was like really waiting, but I was extra hungry when I had COVID. I was really hungry the whole time. I was waiting. I was like, where is that sense of smell? Maybe I'll like go on a diet and just eat lettuce and not care.
Right. But there are still communities, thousands of people who never regain their sense of smell.
That's really scary.
It's terrifying. There's so much unknown here.
Yeah. And like to lose any of your five senses, like that's such a big deal. And it kind of speaks to the long-term seriousness of COVID and why it's so important that we take precautions and why we become vaccinated and all of that stuff. Because it is a serious illness. It's not, despite the fact that it's not killing people, it still is a serious thing to take into consideration.
Yeah, I don't have full data on this, but I did a panel. I mentioned this on the show a while ago. I did a panel on long COVID. And from what I learned then, this was 2 months ago, most of the people with these chronic late effects of COVID had original COVID, COVID classic, or Delta. Omicron has yet to be proven because it's less lethal, it's less invasive, to have had the same scale known long-term side effects. And again, going back to my virology training,
going back to when you were an esteemed virologist.
Yes, back in my virology days. I just remember this from talking to some folks a couple of years ago on my show. When a virus keeps mutating into various subvariants, it's trying to stay alive. And eventually peters out by creating so many subvariants. It's basically playing like it's just playing cards. It's trying to figure out the odds of which one of its subvariants can survive.
Mm-hmm. And it's the one that outsmarts the mice, right? That's the one that survives.
It's the one made of Chuck Norris.
Okay, just checking.
The Chuck Norris variant will kill us all.
So that's our story on the mice today. Mice are not so much on my brain because I don't know if you know this. I don't know if I sound extra tired today, but I am extra tired.
A little tired.
I have my own brain fog today, but it has nothing to do with COVID, and it has everything to do with a fox that comes to my house every single night. And
is he followed by a hare?
Yeah, no, it is not. I wish it were followed by literally anything that would kill it. Because, and I'm sorry for all the nature lovers out there, but this motherfucking fox comes every night into my cul-de-sac and wakes us all up every single day at like 3 a.m. So, because I don't know if you've ever heard a fox, but it sounds like a baby being eaten. It is
Can't you like just trank it and call animal services?
Well, you can't. I mean, they're fast though. They're like fast little fuckers out there.
What if everyone held the trank at it at the same time?
I would be all for it. But listen. This is my night every single night. The fox wakes us all up at 3 a.m. because it is so loud. And my husband, gentleman that he is, gets up out of bed in his boxer shorts, goes downstairs into the cul-de-sac outside with a giant whip and snaps the whip on the ground.
Oh my God.
And that scares the fox. And then it goes away for the night, only to return the next night. We don't know what else to do.
And here I am complaining about the Q train.
This is my life. This is life in the suburbs with the foxes. Anyway.
Well, I will end with a quick note that I just came back from visiting my parents in South Carolina. I wasn't going to say this, but you brought it out. They have birds the size of Tic Tacs that sound like trains and locomotives at 3 a.m. So I feel like in the My Cousin Vinny, where the train's just waking up every night, they have birds the size of Tic Tacs that make this massive sound at 3 a.m.
Hilarious.
Yeah, not
Wildlife.
hilarious, but
Wildlife for the win.
Sounds hilarious. Yes, and so on that note,
thank you to all of our creatures, big and small. Those
mice, foxes, disastrously tiny, loud insect birds.
Right,
in
exactly.
South Carolina.
Those who help with medical science and those who just ruin my sleep. So, thank you to all.
All right, we'll see you back here next week, folks. Elura, thank you again for a wonderful, wonderful conversation.
Thanks, Matt. Vax on. See you soon.
That's all for now. If you like Vax On, be sure to subscribe, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, follow us on social, and tell all your friends to listen. Tell us your shit show of a healthcare story by leaving a message for us at 855-AUDIO-66, and we might just use it in a future show. Vax On is a product of OffScrip Health. We are a healthcare engagement company built for patients and caregivers by patients and caregivers. Our executive producers are Matthew Zachary and Andrew McDowell. Our senior producer is Brianna Seeley. Our hosts are Matthew Zachary and Elura Nanos. It is recorded, mixed, and edited by Brianna Seeley. For advertising and media inquiries, email media@offscrip.com. That's media@offscrip.com. For more information, visit offscrip.com.